They may look like superheroes, but sometimes comic book actors don't feel so super wearing their capes and cowls. They may look awesome and bring our favorite comic book hero looks to life, but that doesn't mean they are by any means awesome to wear. Hot, tight-fitting, and sometimes taking hours to put on. Superhero suits can be uncomfortable at best and just plain dangerous at worst. A bad-looking costume may lose interest from a fan, but an uncomfortable costume can make their actors straight up hate their role. We will take a look at some of the actors who loathe their costumes and the arduous process they have to go through to put on these suits. From losing sense of hearing, nearly being choked to death, to having to relieve yourself in the suit. We will go through some of the most shocking and uncomfortable moments actors had with their suits.
You should pack your suit, just in case. I have a tingle about it.
Please stop saying tingle, May.
The Spider-Man suit is notorious for being one of the most uncomfortable and restrictive superhero costumes to wear, and Tom Holland's outfit in the MCU is certainly no different. While we may all daydream about swinging around Manhattan like Spidey, Holland said it is less than glamorous to play the arachnid-themed hero. The costume is so tight that Holland's co-star Zendaya is legitimately scared that it'll choke him. In order to drink, he has to be given a straw through one of his eye holes, and as a way not to show off any baggy underwear, he has a series of thongs he has to wear, which I imagine he was not thrilled about.
Maybe put on some clothes.
And things that we take for granted like scratching your face or going to the washroom are a lot harder in the Spidey suit, with Holland unable to scratch his face while in the suit and having to plan washroom breaks 45 minutes in advance. And although the suit may be hot, he has to monitor how much water he drinks because he cannot afford to have any accidents in the suit. Luckily for Holland, the iron suit he wears in Avengers and for some of Far From Home is mocap, so it isn't quite as claustrophobic. Holland isn't the only Spidey actor to be uncomfortable with the suit, with Amazing Spider-Man star Andrew Garfield feeling very nervous about being snapped by the paps in the suit. Black Panther's costume may be one of the strongest and most fierce in the MCU, but actor Chadwick Boseman didn't feel so good inside the suit. The costume itself is very uncomfortable and restricting and caused some scary moments for Boseman during filming. While he now described the suit as feeling like a second skin, he admitted it took some time to really get used to it, and admitted that the spandex was very tight and suffocating to get into. Boseman stated that he was literally being suffocated as he got into the suit, with no air getting in and constricting his chest, which led to him having a few anxiety attacks and having to be quickly taken out of the suit. To get through filming, Boseman said he had to get to a zen state in order to remain calm and breathe as normally as possible. And to think I have panic attacks when there's not enough cheese on my pizza. Out of all the costumes, Wonder Woman's looks like one of the most comfortable as well as being one of the most badass looks. But apparently it wasn't quite as comfortable as you would imagine. Gal Gadot admitted that during filming of Batman vs Superman, the corset was so tight that she couldn't breathe. Apparently though, Gadot was so excited about being cast for the part that she initially didn't say anything and said that the suit was fine, meaning that she had to work her way through it and do everything she could to breathe, and not to break out of the corset. Luckily for her though, for the solo Wonder Woman movie, she worked with the costume department to make it more comfortable, and made it so that she was actually able to breathe. Now Gadot says that the suit is actually very comfortable to work in, but admittedly, and very unsurprisingly, said it could get very cold for outdoor shoots. But I think she will take that over being able to breathe any day. Initially, Paul Bettany had one of the cushiest voices in the MCU, providing the voice for Tony Stark's AI assistant, Jarvis. But that all changed in Avengers Age of Ultron, when Bettany turned into Vision and had to leave the recording booth to the makeup department. Initially, Bettany didn't realize what he was getting into and was excited upon seeing the design for Vision, but his optimism quickly vanished when he realized the reality of becoming Vision.
That was odd.
Bettany would spend 3.5 hours in the makeup chair, having layers of prosthetics and a rubber balaclava being glued to his face, before being put into a tight robot suit. Sometimes Bettany would be in costume for up to 10 hours in a day, meaning that half the day would be spent either getting into the costume or wearing it. To keep him cool, the suit would be filled with pipes which they would pump with ice water, something that the actor describes as feeling like he was in a gin and tonic. If only. The suit had other complications too, with his skin unable to breathe as only small portions were showing, and he would also have trouble hearing as his ears were covered. So they had to poke holes so that he could hear, or he would have to try to read lips, which could be very difficult when staring into the alluring gaze of Chris Hemsworth.
This is a man, a handsome, muscular man.
By a remarkable consensus, the Batman suit is uncomfortable to say the least, with almost every live-action actor to play him, including Bale, Affleck, Clooney, Kilmer, Keaton, and Pattinson in the upcoming Batman movie, saying the costume was an unpleasant experience. Bale stated that his in the Dark Knight trilogy was tight, uncomfortable, poorly ventilated, and gave him headaches. But being the extreme actor that he is, he said that he added the headaches to his character's dark and brooding personality, because there's nothing gloomier than Batman with a migraine. Clooney and Keaton both said that their costume was stiff and restrictive, although Clooney, like the fans, took issue with the famous bat nipples. Batman vs. Superman's Ben Affleck said he found the moments in the mocap suit humiliating, just like the bat nips, I guess. Kilmer went further in his criticism, saying that it took him 45 minutes to get out of the suit, and that he would need help going to the bathroom, and he had trouble hearing due to the fact that his ears were covered. What was worse though was that when he called for help, no one would come, but that may be the fact that he was dressed as Batman at the time. Needing help to go to the bathroom was a sentiment Robert Pattinson shared. He didn't feel all so good having 5 people shove him in it, and required help to go to the bathroom. To be fair, it would be hard to take Batman seriously if he had to stop fighting Joker for an hour just to go for a bathroom break. Or maybe that's the way to beat Batman. Pump him full of Gatorade.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
The Batsuit wasn't the only superhero costume Ben Affleck took issue with. In fact, he found his entire experience as Daredevil far more uncomfortable. Affleck has seemingly moved mountains to distance himself from the original Daredevil movie, and part of that was his huge criticism of the suit, stating that wearing it felt like a source of humiliation. He went on even further to label the costume cheesy and uncomfortable, and made it clear that he didn't want to go through the process again. Luckily for the Devil of Hell's Kitchen, Charlie Cox didn't take as much issue with his suit in the Netflix series, with his main issue being that it was tight and it took 45 minutes to get into. What is with superhero costumes in 45 minutes? Also, this poses the question, how does Matt Murdock, who is blind, manage to get into it? It takes me long enough to find a clean pair of underwear, am I right? Okay, too much info. One of the biggest complaints with actors and their superhero costumes is that they are just too tight. But I don't think any of them are quite as tight as Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman suit in Batman Returns. In fact, the suit was so tight that she had to be sewed into it, with Pfeiffer saying it was the most uncomfortable thing she has ever had to wear and that the crew had to powder her down to get her in it, and then vacuum pack the suit. Yeah, that's pretty tight. Pfeiffer also had issues with the rest of the suit, with the mask crushing her face and the claws catching on everything. But like most superhero costumes, she also had issues with the bathroom breaks, with the costume designer having to redesign the suit to make it a little bit easier for the Star to relieve herself. Turns out the villains had a hard time with it too.
Meow.
Anne Hathaway, who also played the character in The Dark Knight Rises, also had trouble, spending hours upon hours at the gym in order to fit into her tight-fitting costume. Hellboy 3 may be one of the most disappointing lost films in Hollywood. A third movie had often been touted to round off director Guillermo del Toro's series, but a myriad of reasons seemed to prevent it from ever happening. But del Toro alluded to the fact that the reason the movie never came to be was the fact actor Ron Perlman was tired of the exhausting makeup routine, with prosthetics being attached to almost his entire body, with one piece going over his chest and of course heavy amounts on his face. The routine would take so long, in fact, that he would be in the makeup chair for up to 7 hours.
Could you please be a little careful?
However, despite hating the process, Perlman has spoken fondly of playing the character and had wanted to play the part again before the 2019 reboot with David Harbour playing the title character. Perlman isn't the only actor to struggle with the heavy prosthetics, with Michael Chiklis, who played the Thing in Fantastic Four, describing the process as the 7th circle of hell.
We're all in this together, Ben.
Together? You got no idea what I'd give to be invisible.
And Oscar Isaac having to take regular breaks in the AC tent due to heavy perspiring from wearing his 40-pound Apocalypse suit in X-Men Apocalypse. Another actor who had issues with prosthetics was Rebecca Romijn, who played Mystique for the X-Men series. But instead of having too much costume, she had too little. The makeup process for Romijn would often run for 8 hours, which could be arduous at best. But what made it worse for Romijn was the fact that, unlike her co-stars, she had nothing on underneath the prosthetics. That meant she was fully on show, something which understandably was uncomfortable for her, especially as she was originally thought she was covered up. Romijn stated that she would be happy when the role could be done via CGI, but the next actor to play the role, Jennifer Lawrence, had no such luck. Lawrence initially had to go under the 8-hour makeup routine, but thankfully for her, the process was streamlined in the other movies, cutting down to 3 hours. We may give the Batman and Robin movie a pretty hard time, but one thing that deserves credit is the effort given to the costume design, other than bat nips. The hardest costume to create was Arnold Schwarzenegger's one-line quipping Mr. Freeze, which took 11 crew members 4 hours to paint his face. But the hardest and more dangerous part was giving Freeze a frosty look. To do this, makeup artist Jeff Dawn put an LED light in his mouth, making classic puns such as, "What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age," and "Alright everyone, chill." Even cooler. I mean, they're so cool. And smart. And they're good puns. The issue with this was that Schwarzenegger's saliva would soak into the batteries, meaning the battery acid would leak into his mouth. And that means Arnold Schwarzenegger is a hero.
I hate when people talk during the movie.